Hi everybody, I'm Tina Trevino with Latin Biz Today, and today I am with Isa Herrera of Pelvic Pain Relief, and we're going to talk to her today about her business, how she got started, being an entrepreneur, and all those things. So Isa, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Oh, thank you, Tina, for having me here today. Super excited, super excited. It's really interesting because when I started my entire entrepreneurial, journey, I started in a brick and mortar on Madison Avenue.
Which I think is crazy when I think about where you are today, and just kind of the I guess the hypocrisy, not hypocrisy, but just kind of the dichotomy of it, being on that street, and now being online. So
yeah. What's crazy is when we got the Madison Avenue address, I really didn't think anything about it. It suited my budget. It was a beautiful location, and I went with it, right? Because ignorance is bliss, right? You don't know what you don't know,
exactly.
Right?
Sounds good. Sounds like a beautiful spot. So
it was amazing. It was a beautiful spa environment, really awesome. But I had no idea how difficult it was to run a practice on Madison Avenue. And the interesting thing is that when I graduated from PT school, they taught me nada about business.
Running the business.
Yeah.
So when you first started the business there, what was the clientele? What kinds of people were you getting in? And what was kind of the nature of the business at that point? It's probably very different than it was back then than it is today.
Yeah, the nature of the business has always been the same. The primary focus is women's pelvic health. So I've always been interested in helping women recover from childbirth, through hysterectomies, or through any kind of life stages, right? So I always wanted to do women's health, but in those days there was no one doing this work.
Yeah, it's a niche business today even, I think. So back then it would have been, when was that? About what time?
This was 2004.
Okay, so quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was super niche, and no one really understood what I did, and a lot of people would say, is that really a branch of physical therapy?
Right. So we're just talking about pelvic women's issues, and how I think today there's a lot more awareness about it. We have a lot more women who are in their 50s and 60s who are really looking for help with those kinds of things, and it's an issue, and they're able to talk about it. So I think you're in a good place with that. Do you see that happening? Is that kind of where a lot of your clientele is coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the old days, no one even knew what pelvic health was, that there was help for these issues, incontinence, prolapse, pain with intimacy, and just not feeling right in our lady parts. And now, even Cosmopolitan magazine will have an article.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been interviewed everywhere regarding pelvic health, and I think it is because it's such a niche practice, but also at the same time, women are really looking for answers. So it's so good that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So good.
So how did you actually start into this? Because this is not where you started somewhere else and then you came into this business. So what was your motivation for doing this? What was really the impetus for getting this started?
Oh, that's a great question, because when I first started out, I was doing I was a personal trainer. I was doing orthopedic physical therapy, which basically is for low back, for hip pain, neck pain, that kind of thing. And then I had my daughter.
That's when it started.
And that's when it started. I had no idea. And then I was in PT school, and they don't give you any lectures on women's health. So
it's funny, you were going through it and you were at a school and you would have thought you would have gotten answers, but not really, right? So
nothing. I knew nothing about pelvic health. I didn't even know the anatomy. We actually got about a 30-minute lecture in PT school about women's pelvic health and the anatomy. So it was really interesting. Once I had my daughter and I had all these postpartum issues, right? I didn't know where to go for help, so I kept going from one doctor to another doctor to another doctor in search of answers that no one was giving me. And coming from a lineage of traditional healers, in Puerto Rico, I knew that there was something really wrong. And I knew that the best way to do it is always to do lifestyle medicine and to make the changes in your own body. So I went on a mission and I studied with the top doctors in New York. I took every single class, read every single book, and then I said, this is my life's mission. And I opened up a practice on Madison Avenue, just like that, with no experience, not knowing how to run a practice. I just said, that's it.
You just needed to do it, I think, right?
Yeah.
So from those early stages when you did start it, what would you say you've learned along the way in terms of running a business? There's a goal and you want to start this business and you have the right reasons in your head for doing it, but as a business, what have you learned along the way?
Oh God, I learned so many lessons, and many of them the hard
This
way.
could take a really long
Yeah, it could take a long time. You know, it's really interesting because we run a 7-figure business on Madison Avenue, which is, you know,
It's amazing back then that it was so successful. That's
So successful.
Kudos to you. That's huge. So
I always knew, coming back from the old days when I was a club promoter, that everybody needed to know about the work. And at first I was going after the doctors and the nurses, and it wasn't working. And I said, you know what, when you have a message, a deep message, and you have to bring it to the people. So I brought it to the women. And I started doing heavy duty marketing and promotions, and having workshops, and going out to speak to different kinds of groups. And then slowly but surely the practice started building by word of mouth, which is very, very difficult to do. Word of mouth, you know, building a practice like that.
it's a lot of work that way, but I think especially today too, and it worked for you then, you know, there's definitely something about that grassroots, reaching out to women one-on-one, getting to them. It's better than, you know, anything you could ever receive, I think, in the mail. They need to hear firsthand from people what you do and how it affected you and how you recovered from things. Like, women, it's a good way to bond, you know, so I think that was really helpful. So tell me about the transition from your brick and mortar space to online, and what also kind of got you rolling with that as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, thank you for asking that. About 2 years ago, I got very sick with Lyme disease, and I knew, I mean, it was very stressful running a 7-figure business on Madison Avenue, and I was seeing these trends with insurance companies, with women not getting reimbursed, with insurance companies denying care for this type of work for women. And I said, listen, I gotta make a move. I gotta bring this global. I want to pivot. I want to bring it so that I can reach the millions of women. And my goal is to reach 1 million women with who suffer from pelvic floor dysfunction. And what I did was I said, again, you know, I love the fact that you can just do something because you think you want to do it and you know nothing about nothing. So I said, I'm going to go online.
You just decided you're going to do it.
I'm going to go online. I'm going to create
What's
an
your
online
business
program.
plan?
No business plan. Just created the program. I said, if I was successful on Madison Avenue, which is one of the toughest places, New York City, you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
And you started there, so.
Yeah, exactly. I started at the top. I said, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to change the world. And I want to change the world for all women in all places who don't have access to this kind of care. And at first, you know, it was a very difficult transition because of the technology behind it. And you know, there's a lot of unscrupulous. Oh, it's a whole new world, and you really got to work with the top people to get a technology and a platform that works. Once we nailed that down, and then it was just back to promotions and marketing, and developing a platform that is based in, you know, integrity, that really has the woman's back. That it's not about making a quick buck and going in and going out. So I want to build a brand that lasts. And that was my goal. And I think that 2 years into it, which is not really a long time.
No, not really.
It really isn't. The brand is really successful. I'm really super happy. We have a great team. My husband runs the whole entire practice with me, the online portal. And everything is really good. It's very different. I work from home, you know.
Right.
I do a lot of traveling, a lot of networking. But it's really interesting not going to an office after doing it for 12 years and not having like an office and regulated hours, you know.
It's a different way of working, but I think, you know, if you can, you're disciplined enough, right? To, I mean, obviously the business is successful. What do you think changed when you went from that full-time in the office to being at home doing it in terms of discipline? Did you find it hard?
I found it hard in the beginning, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was so difficult because I had so much freedom.
But you don't really.
But you really don't, because then you have no out time. Right? So
Right.
you have to even regulate yourself even more, because
You could be working around the clock at all hours.
all the
Yeah,
time.
I totally get that. So.
yeah, and the thing is, I'm a workaholic, so I will work around the clock.
Yeah, that's
Right?
tough. That's tough. And some people are the other way. They won't get anything done. So, you know, the discipline is challenging. So on your website right now, I saw you have some links where you offer services, different types of services for women. So tell me a little bit about what you offer online to people. How does that work?
Oh, thank you. For online, I have 2 things, right? Because my mission is to help 1 million women heal from pelvic floor dysfunction.
I love that
Right?
mission statement. I think that's awesome.
I mean, you know, you're gonna go big or stay home,
Right.
right? I mean, honestly. And so, at first, I was like all really gung ho about just creating programs so women can do in the privacy of their own home. A lot of women suffer in shame, they suffer in silence, they don't know what to do. It's a very private
It's a tough thing to talk about for some women, and like we talked about earlier, you may have come from a background where it's not talked about, it's not discussed, and I know for me, you know, as a Latina, you know, and a Catholic, from a devout Catholic family, like, you know, heaven forbid we talk about getting pregnant or, you know, or any kind of anything. So I think if you're talking about women in their 50s, 60s, they might still feel that way, although it is a different world, but I still think, you know, until somebody steps out and talks about it, it's a little tough to talk about. So so that's great you offer that so that they can kind of figure out what they need to do to help themselves in their own, you know, without feeling that shame. So
and the thing is all about self-care, right, and lifestyle medicine. If we really want to heal fully and completely and 100%, we really got to take our health into our own hands, right? We cannot outsource our health anymore.
No.
Right? We have to start with this self-empowerment and really knowing what to do to care for ourselves and shopping very wisely so that we're in partnership with our caregiver, our naturopath, whomever we're working with, right?
Right.
And then what happened, a lot of different professionals started getting interested in the work that I do. So now I'm teaching professionals, doctors, midwives, physical therapists, yogis, Pilates individuals to do what I do. So that's really cool because now it's like kind of like I'm like the tree. And
so it's like business to business instead of just business to direct consumer. So you have a couple of angles there to pursue it from. And that's amazing that you've gotten that much notoriety and credibility that they're coming to you to be that person. So that's great.
Yeah, I love it.
So what are you thinking you do next? You have this 1 million women goal. Anything else on the horizon in terms of what your plans are? And I think you've written some books. I mean, what else you got planned?
I think my biggest plan for the end of 2019 and 2020 is really helping practitioners and clinicians who don't know how to run a successful brick and mortar online business, how to do what I do so that everybody succeeds, right? Because the thing is right now it's so difficult for individuals to have successful practices, and we have so many women, Latina women too, and women in general who really want to start a practice and they just don't know the beginning of anything, just like I did. I knew nothing when I started my practice, and I learned in the hard school.
Yeah,
I didn't have an MBA. I should have gotten an MBA. You know,
you would have earned everything at this point. So for sure.
So that's what I want to do. I really want to help clinicians succeed and bring their dreams. You know, make their dreams come true.
That's awesome.
And have successful practices. That's really my goal. That's what I want to do.
So what do you think you would tell, you know, an entrepreneur today who wanted to start, who kind of didn't know what to do in your field? Like, what would you tell them? How would you tell them to go about starting?
The first thing I would say is know that you're going to fail and not to get discouraged, right? Because the thing is, in the beginning when something wouldn't succeed, I would get very discouraged. And the thing is, in our failures, that's where the gold is, right? That's where the opportunity is to level up, right? As long as you're examining it and you're not going to make the same mistake twice.
Right.
Right? So I would say the first thing is to know that it's going to be hard, but that the rewards are fantastic, and that every no that you get brings you closer to a yes.
Right, you learn.
Right? And you learn, and not to be discouraged, and to know that if the brand is built on integrity, if it's true, if it's solid, and it's got a great message and it's positioned properly, that anyone can succeed, right? And what is your definition of success?
Oh, that's key. We talk about that all the time, actually, at Latin Biz Today. What does that mean? You know, our tagline is know how to succeed, and part of that is what is success to you? You know, what does that really mean? So I agree with you 100%. We always talk about that.
So true, right?
It's so true. Absolutely. What would you also say in terms of, because you are working this full time, you have a family, you have a husband, you know, kids, so how do you balance that for yourself as an entrepreneur? How do you do it? Or are you just going to say that you work all the time?
No, honestly, you know, I'm getting better at it. I wasn't always good, especially when you're starting a business. You've got to work hard in the beginning, and sometimes there are no boundaries. Yeah. Right? But after a while, you start to realize that you're missing out on a beautiful aspect of your life. So I have an in time and an out time. And if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done, and I don't beat myself up for it, and I give myself compassion and self-forgiveness at the end of the day. And what I can accomplish, I accomplish, and I do the best that I can every day, and make my list for the next day. But that in and out time is really critical.
Yeah.
Really critical. And to stay connected. And because being an entrepreneur working at home is so isolating, and it can be very lonely.
Yeah, it's good to be out there. It's kind of nice that you are able to network and meet all these women and also have all these conversations with people. It keeps you in the know and current, and just kind of like seeing what's really going on out in the world too. So, great. And then what about in terms of being a Latina and starting a business? That's a good one. So, you know, I think there's a lot of Latinas who would love to hear your thoughts on, you know, what it takes, your feelings about it. What can you tell them?
I think when you're Latina in this world and you're trying to do a business, we have to be twice as good, work twice as hard, right? And we have to make our own opportunities. And we have to go out there and we have to just do it. And the thing is, when you're a woman, especially if you're Latina, the deck is stacked up against you. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we have to let that into our system and that it has to define us. Because we know that we are hot and fantastic and dynamic and go-getters, right?
Exactly.
So I would say the same thing. I would say, if you really have a dream and you want that dream to come true, you have to put fear, and you have to kick fear out of the way. Because a lot of it is fear.
Right.
Right?
Right. You'll be paralyzed if you don't get started. Exactly.
100%. The thing is, in the beginning, I was very fearful. And even today, I was having a conversation because I hired a team to do some ads for me. And I noticed that they were treating this older gentleman who happened to be, Anglo-Saxon, and he was getting his stuff done faster than mine. And I was like, here we go again, right? So what do? I'm like, okay, kill them with kindness, but I let my
You have to voice your
you have to
opinion.
voice your opinion. When you want something, you have to just go out there, and you can't be afraid not to be liked, right?
Right. It's going to happen, and that's how you get
happen.
stuff done, and I agree with you. I think that's all really good wisdom to share with Latinas trying to get out there and start their businesses. So.
Yeah, because it's really hard to start a business, but the thing is, we know that a lot of businesses are run by women, and we know that we're really, so imaginative and creative and
I think
energized.
that's part of the reason why you see so many Latinas starting businesses, because they know they have a better chance at succeeding on their own sometimes than they do within the system that exists, I think. So I feel like that's why we need to share these stories with them, so that they have a leg up on how to start their own businesses, because that's the one way that they can succeed, by having their own business, their own support team, and all of that. So
Absolutely. When I first started out, I realized that my salary was going to be capped. I was never going to go any higher.
it's funny. I hear this from a lot of Latinas. They say the same story. They feel like they're already like behind the 8 ball before they even start.
Yeah.
So it's a common thing that I've heard. So. And so also the last thing I just want to ask you, so is there anything you want to promote, anything you want to talk about to our audience? Is there anything going on with you, any events or anything?
I would love to promote my website.
Okay.
Have all women in all universes come to the website, pelvicpainrelief.com.
Great, you heard that.
Yeah, you heard that here.
pelvicpainrelief.com.
And check out the programs, check out my blog, check out my writings, check out my books, and to spread the word so that other women can heal in the world.
Absolutely. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go on and check it out. I hope you guys do too. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. It was really nice to have you here.
Thank you. So excited.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.